Hello and welcome to the Emerald City Video Podcast. I'm Russ, and that's Zach.
Hello, how goes it, Russ?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so tired. I'm totally sober, and I still sounded like that. Um,
I am not totally sober. I'm just highly caffeinated right now.
uh,
Yeah, no, but
I wish I could be that way, but I should probably take my credit card down out of the frame.
thankfully the resolution and also the numbers on the other side. So I have
Yeah,
the same. I
exactly.
even think I have the same card as you, but yeah.
Uh,
So we have. I'm going to talk about a couple different like things. Hopefully, this will be shorter episode than we usually do,
yeah.
but we do have a deadline, so we're shorter. I'm sure everybody's heard by now, but Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle were killed. The kind of the details of everything are coming out, and we're not going to talk about that part of it. I think we just wanted to talk a little bit about one of the guys. There's like certain people that are institutions, like especially for people in our age group, in our like mid 40s, where it's just like he has always existed, and
Yeah.
it felt like he was just like, no, he's just gonna keep making films. Like, Mel Brooks is like that type of
Yeah.
thing. Like he existed long before us. Our parents or grandparents maybe, like introduced Mel Brooks to us. And then we got to introduce them to younger people or kids or nieces, nephews, whatever. And it's just like it's gonna be weird when he dies. Like Mel Brooks just turned, I think
Yeah.
he
99.
not just, but he's either 99 or 100. I'm getting Dick Van Dyke is also just turned
Yeah,
100. So it's
Dick
just
Van
like,
Dyke just turned 100, and that's the reason I
yeah,
remember offhand that
yeah,
Brooks is 99
yeah,
because they had a like Mel Brooks, comma 99,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. And so it's just like, it's one of those things is like just weird where it's just to not have him around. It's going to be like, we all know that like the greats of our, that we grew up like with making
Mm,
the big blockbusters is like Steven Spielberg. I don't even want to think about it, but like just they're getting in
yeah,
the age group of us. So I mean, like we're getting in the age group for our whatever, but that's a different story.
yeah.
But but yeah, we just talk a little bit about Rob Reiner's career and what our favorite films were.
Mm.
I think it's with somebody like Reiner, it's kind of like what weren't our favorite films, like because he's a
I
guy
think
that, yeah,
one thing that I noticed that like people haven't talked about a lot, probably because like the tone and tenor of things is kind of you're more reverential and you don't want to necessarily be like, hey, here's some fun trivia.
yeah,
Um, but it is interesting to me that as a feature director, his debut was Spinal Tap. And then because of him passing in 2025,
yeah,
like his final film was Spinal Tap 2.
yeah,
And
yeah,
he did an entire career in between those two movies.
yeah,
Um, and so like there's something really interesting about that. I'm glad that it finally got made because when I was like looking for an image of Reiner that I could use for a news story without getting sued,
yeah,
um, I was looking specifically for one of the ones from the Spinal Tap movies because I was like, oh, he's playing a guy who basically looks like him. He's not like in any kind of funny makeup, you know.
yeah,
Like I didn't want to use a meathead photo because like he's so young and he hasn't looked like that in 40
yeah,
years. Um, and so like I was looking for one of the photos from Spinal Tap, and as I was like Googling, Rob Reiner Spinal Tap, there was a thing of him talking at some like in an interview or at a convention or something in like 2016 about wanting to get the movie made.
yeah,
And it's like, so this is the thing he spent the last decade of his life trying to put together.
yeah,
I'm glad that it actually came together before he passed away.
yeah.
Um,
And it's wild because it's like you have so many directors that come out with like a big thing and then like so, but like let me just like very quickly, this is just from IMDb.
yeah,
1984 was Spinal Tap. 1985 was The Sure Thing with John Cusack. Fantastic film. One of the kind of underrated, like not really talked about to me. Like we
yeah,
talk about, Breakfast Club, like all those films, and I'm like, John Cusack did like a bunch of films that were great, right? But Stand By Me, 1986, The Princess Bride, 1987, When Harry Met Sally, 1989, Misery, 1990, A Few Good Men, 1992, North, which I'm sorry, I saw it in theaters. I liked it. I I think it was a little rambling, at times
Mm,
because, but that was to me that was the film. It was a wandering thing
right.
anyway. And then off of his one bomb in his entire career, basically up to that point, and then
Yeah.
just turns around and does the American President, and then does Ghosts of Mississippi, and then his career is kind of like all over the place with like
Yeah.
things like Rumor Has It
Although
and The
it's funny
Bucket
because
List or
like
whatever. But
even I was obviously I've looked a lot at the filmography the last
mhm,
few days. I was writing articles and stuff, and like I was struck by the fact that even when he got into the movies that don't feel notable anymore,
yeah,
that are just kind of like, oh yeah, he made it, like he made Alex and Emma, and
yeah,
it's like for the most part, all of those were still critical and financial successes. Like
yeah,
obviously not everything can be When Harry Met Sally,
yeah,
but like he really, like North is really the only bomb of his career.
yeah.
Like when there are some movies in there that I aren't my favorites. I actually really hate, viscerally hate, Rumor Has It, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah, I know. I
mostly
remember
just
that. Yeah.
like the premise. Like I was like, if you're gonna do a sequel to The Graduate, it has to
Was this the
really,
film that when we were both working at Blockbuster, somebody I think this is a film you called a war
a
crime, a
crime
film,
against humanity.
yeah,
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 probably.
something like that. And I actually, it was so funny because like I still, because it was like big when it came out, especially on tape. It was like kind of a big, it was, or
Yeah.
DVD.
Well,
Or
and
was it
it
on
was
tape?
one of Blockbuster's guaranteed in stock movies, which means that
Okay,
when
yeah,
we were working at Blockbuster, there was like an entire
yeah,
wall.
yeah.
There was like 64 copies of this DVD.
Yeah.
Um,
But it was so funny because still remember to this day. I had a customer come up with two films, and I was just like, "What have you heard about either ones?" I forget what the second film was. I was like, "This film's fine, like whatever." Rumor has it. I mean, I'll tell you, like it's basically. I kind of gave the summary. It's like
yeah.
kind of a sequel to Graduate. I'm not even quite sure she knew what the Graduate was. She was
Right.
younger. It was
Yeah.
not accusing anyone of not knowing, but
Right. But
my the
like,
film snobbery of the Blockbuster employee is well known. Anyway, but I quoted you. It was like, well, one of my colleagues and friends like calls it a crime against humanity, and she kind of looked at it and was like, okay, and then put it down and got it. And I'm like, wait, what happened here? Do you not know what a crime against humanity is, or do you like, or you're like, no, I would like to see a war crime tonight,
yeah.
starring,
Starring
yeah,
Kevin Costner and Jennifer Aniston.
yeah.
Um, I'm sure it's not as bad as but I just I especially back then I loved The Graduate
Yeah.
so much. And like it was just a movie that I just felt like it didn't need to exist, and it was like if they're gonna make it, it really needs to like
Yeah.
be interesting to justify itself, and then it
Yeah.
just was not.
I
Um,
feel I feel like there's like a lot of there's of course they say there's a lot of films and immediately I can't really necessarily think of anything, but like I feel like there are films like that like are have attached themselves to kind of a greater thing and but like
mhm,
are not quite related. And then it's
yeah,
just like it kind of like taints the whole film project because it's like, oh, if this film, I mean, if you said, oh, you're going to see a film with of course I clicked on the wrong thing. I'm trying to remember the whole
yeah.
cast, but like you're going to see a film with Jennifer Aniston, especially in 2005 is when she was doing
Yeah.
like good acting. It was a brief moment in time before she returned to, I think she just does commercials now. I don't know. I don't remember the last time I'd
She
seen her
did
in any.
those two
Oh,
Netflix movies with Adam
yeah.
Sandler.
Oh yeah, but she also, wait, isn't she doing a TV show? No, I'm thinking of somebody else. Anyway, but like you said, like Jennifer Aniston, Kevin Costner, Shirley MacLaine, Mark Ruffalo, Christopher McDonald, like just a whole bunch of other names, and you're like, oh yeah, I
You know,
totally want to see.
I wonder if Christopher McDonald wrote that movie. It feels like the kind of thing he would write. Um,
It's credited to Ted Griffin.
okay.
Um,
No, no. Just McDonald, like I think he wrote some Scrubs episodes. He definitely was in the writers' room on Cougar Town.
yeah.
And obviously Mad TV. He was like one of the
This is such a side thing, but like this is like such a so in the middle of written by Ted Griffin.
mm,
He did before that he did Ravenous, Best Laid Plans, Ocean's 11, Matchstick Men, Rumor Has It, an episode of The Shields, Killers, Terriers. So like that's he was just like I just got to get this one out. I got to make
yeah.
some money. Like, I don't know. I'm sure he made money on Ocean's
Oh,
11,
I'm
but
sure.
Well, yeah,
Well, he probably it was probably one of those things where he like knew somebody from one of the other projects, and they
yeah,
were like, "Look, man, we got a solid premise, but like this first draft is a disaster. Can you
yeah,
come in and save it?"
yeah,
Because
yeah,
like that's the kind of thing that happens all the time.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. But anyway, let's we don't have to
yeah,
keep on
sorry.
with it. Yeah, but no,
Um,
yeah, it's
but my larger point before we got into a whole side tangent about how much I hate one random movie is that even that movie did really well.
yeah,
I don't know what it did theatrically, but it did super well on home video. It like had a general vibe of success around it, which is something I think that like is more important than
yeah,
the dollars and cents.
yeah,
Like, like again, look at Batman v Superman. It's a classic example of like that movie made almost $1 billion.
yeah,
Like it's vibes that the
yeah.
movie failed. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah, yeah.
mean?
But it didn't make 1.4 because
Yeah.
that would have been what it was success. Yeah, yeah. No, it's always this is again, we've talked about this a million
Yeah.
times and not we don't have to get into it, but it's or we're not going to let's not get into it. Is
Yeah.
that like the obsession with the box office, thing is just
Yeah.
completely insane if we're talking about appreciation of movies and things like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
but
But yeah, I
um
think I mean and again, there might be one or two that I missed, but I do think that other than North, I don't think there was another major like something that stuck out at me as like, "Oh yeah, that one cost a bunch of people their jobs."
yeah, yeah.
Um
Yeah. I mean, it's also wild. Like he has going viral. He had a character. I haven't watched the new seasons of The Bear, but
mm,
like he's another guy that like I just loved because he never really committed. I know he was like a reoccurring character on New Girl,
mm,
but like he never really committed to like just do a TV show and just doing acting.
yeah.
But he was such a fun actor to like pop into. Like he's
Yeah.
such a good like one episode guy. Like he has so many roles here. It's just funny. We're just like coffee guy, like just like,
Yeah.
but he's just like a random judge on the Good Fight for 2 episodes, and oh
Yeah.
yeah, that was on a Bada Boy. He's bagel shop owner. Like, doesn't you can't even give Rob Reiner on your TV show a name, but like it's such a good,
I wonder if that's honestly because of the fact that like he has so many relationships and he's
yeah,
probably doing things for friends.
yeah,
I wonder if it's like one of those things where if he has a name, he can't do it for scale.
yeah.
Um,
I don't
like
know.
which
It's just one of those, I mean, there's even like in the Wolf of Wall Street,
yeah,
he has like not a big role in the film, but he basically just
right,
has like just such a perfect Rob Reiner role.
yeah,
That I mean, because he's also seemingly he'd definitely be a guy that you can just like, no, we
oh yeah,
definitely, we want him if you to play this particular role because it's going to be Rob Reiner, and it's
yeah,
gonna,
exactly,
it's not like we're casting a guy that's going to get into the role. It's just like, no,
yeah. I
we need
mean,
a Rob Reiner type.
exactly. Like not only did he do a shitload of those movies, but
Mhm.
also like a lot of the acting he's done in the last like 20 years
Yeah,
is just straight up playing like a comedic version of
yeah,
himself.
yeah.
Like there's a whole section on his Wikipedia for like starring as himself,
Yeah,
and
I was
it's
just
it's not what you typically expect where it's like all talk shows and it's like yeah, he's credited on Conan as himself
yeah.
because no, like he like he went on The Simpsons and played a version of himself. He went on The Bear and played a version of himself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I just look, yeah, in The Muse, he plays Rob Reiner.
mhm.
In Curb Your Enthusiasm, not surprisingly, he plays Rob
Yeah.
Reiner. In Dickie Roberts, former child star, he plays Rob Reiner.
Yep.
On The Simpsons, of course, he plays Rob Reiner, which actually isn't of course because like often they have other people play. In Hannah,
Yeah.
which is I want to see this episode. Hannah Montana, he plays Rob Reiner in one
Oh.
episode in 2009. Wizards of Waverly Place, Rob
Yeah.
Reiner. On 30 Rock, he is Representative Rob Reiner. And then there's a handful of other things along the way. Happy-ish, she's Rob Reiner, comedian, yeah.
Mhm.
But it's not there's not a lot of actors that you're just playing yourself or directors that you're just playing
Yeah.
yourself. Like I suppose Spielberg probably could do. I'm sure he has a couple listings where he shows up in
Oh, I'm
movies as
sure.
Spielberg. But like
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously like it's like a thing that you can do if you have a big enough
yeah,
star. Like obviously the one that occurs to us is Springsteen and High
hmm
Fidelity.
hmm
But like but Reiner, like because of the fact that he was an exec as
yeah,
well as being a creative, like he was constantly just on the phone with people and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna be on set tomorrow. Oh,
yeah,
cool. Do you want to do a cameo as yourself?"
yeah,
I mean, I don't know that that's how it happened, but that's kind
yeah,
of what I imagine is that a lot of these were like, "I'm gonna be there anyway.
yeah.
Do you want me to make your coffee guy funny?"
I mean, I
Like,
think that's one of the interesting. Like, there keeps being all these stories about how, um, like everyone seemed very happy the day before,
mm,
and like, so it's always like I have not seen a single story about, well, this one time Rob Reiner yelled at me, you know, like whatever.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's not the time period that that stuff would come out or whatever, but you know,
right.
for the most part. But like, it's like the fact that he was basically who he's perceived to be on
Yeah,
TV shows and kind of like his perception. He genuinely is that. Like, there's very few people I think in Hollywood that like also have
yeah,
that like, oh, he is friends with all of these people that he is like. Hollywood is its own little bubble, but like
yeah,
it's amazing like when like no like it seems like every day, you know,
yeah,
every day he was like, according to every we were talking about, oh yeah, he was supposed to, you know, he was literally that the next day or something like that, he was supposed to be having dinner with the Obamas and things like that. It was just
yeah.
like
Like
his like
the
yeah
the day before he passed away, he was on the phone with Eric Idle talking
mhm,
about some project they were supposed to do or
yeah
something. Like, yeah, he's and again like super active for somebody who's 78 and who like just spent 4 months on the road
yeah
doing his press tour for Spinal Tap. Although I will say, like in the time since the press tour for Spinal Tap, it seems like every weekend he and Romy have been on vacation in some beautiful place. Because when
yeah
you go to Romy's Instagram, there's like a bunch of pictures of her with her mom and dad from 3 weeks ago, and then another bunch from a week ago.
yeah.
Um, and so it's
I'm
like,
sorry like so, somewhat aside, like we need to get a I don't know what the film would be, but I want a film with all of the positive nepo babies
yeah,
of famous directors and actors because like I absolutely love Scorsese's daughters. I forget her first name. I feel bad. And
Francesca, is that it?
Francesca, yes, yeah, I think it is, yeah. And I absolutely love her it's so fun. If you don't follow her on TikTok or I don't know if she's on Reels as well, but
Yeah,
like follow her on it is just a joy because you get to see Scorsese being like the dad. It's so
yeah,
weird to see him in the role of the dad, be like where he's like both trying to direct the things or
hmm
whatever. There's a couple like Tim Robbins' son does
yeah.
has
That's
this
what I was gonna say.
hilarious like with
Yeah,
Susan's with he has a like a red haired girl. I haven't caught up with it in a bit. Like it's an ongoing kind
Mhm.
of story arc with he has like a
Yeah,
a red haired girlfriend that's like obsessed with Susan Sarandon or something like that. You know, his mom. But
yeah,
it's I'm loving those because there's so many. There's I don't even know if I think that finally they've realized. Again, this is very sidetracked, but you know, there's so many that like refuse to admit, you know, that they're you know got where they are at least in part. You know, you don't survive in Hollywood just
yeah,
based on being having a last name. Like, I'm sorry, you don't. Maybe as an executive or something like that, you can, but like,
yeah,
there's a certain point, you know. Um, but like all these kids that are just like, you know, especially the younger kids of real like Francesca is like got to be in her early 20s. And you know, Scorsese is, you know, well into his at least 70s or 80s, which I don't like to talk
I
about
think
of it.
80s, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't like to talk about it because I won't be able to deal with when yeah.
yeah,
Anyway, but it's yeah, I want like a super film about like with all of
yeah.
them like the nepo all like the positive role model because it's like
It's
it's
like
something yeah.
the Avengers of Nepo babies.
Yeah. It's and again, this is such a side, but like it's the amount of obsessed that the like I don't know, I don't even know if they're Snyder fans, but just people
Mhm.
who hate James Gunn saying that it's like, oh, you're hiring your brother again, you're hiring your girl, your wife, or you know, whatever, and it's all these things just like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Go through the history of cinema. Like
yeah,
the baby in The Godfather was Sofia Coppola.
yeah,
Like it's like kind of a long history of that and where they hire their friends and family members. I mean, like, you know, Coppola's, you know, might as
yeah,
well have been family with like Pacino, like, and same thing Scorsese with De Niro. Like they're basically family. It's not even a question like
yeah.
of like anything.
Well,
Yeah.
and also, I mean, the thing with Gunn, especially with
Mhm.
Jennifer, I can't remember his wife's last name,
Yeah.
but like with his wife, particularly, like I believe they were collaborating and then started dating. And
Mhm.
it's like that's sometimes going to happen.
Yeah.
Like when you live
Happens a lot.
almost entirely in this bubble
Yeah.
where everybody you know is from Hollywood, like even Rob Reiner,
Yeah.
like his wife was not a Hollywood person, but from what I understand, the impression I get is that they didn't just meet while he was making When Harry Met Sally. I think she was either like a set
Yeah.
photographer or like shooting him for a magazine or
Because
something. Like
did you this is the thing I cannot find proof of it, but like on
I know
IMDb
exactly
page
what you're gonna say.
that
Yeah.
like that she took the photo of Donald Trump on the Art of the Deal book.
Yeah, that's I couldn't find any direct evidence of that either.
Yeah.
And in fact, I found some evidence to contradict it simply
Yeah.
because like when you Google like that photo session, it
Yeah.
names a guy from I think Reuters.
Yeah.
Um, but the every article about the death on that first night had picked up on that,
hmm I
and
guess it's
I
on her
think
IMDb page or something like that, and that's why
it
everybody said,
originate well, I mean, it might be on our IMDb page, but it originated in terms of sourcing for the articles
hmm
on Variety.
interesting.
Um, because I was watching all the articles all
Yeah.
night because I was, what had happened if anybody for anybody who was not awake then or who didn't not super plugged into this stuff is that around 10 o'clock at night on Sunday there was a report that two older people had been found dead at a home belonging to the Reiners. And so like the it seemed very likely that they had passed away, but we you didn't know anything about it. There was no confirmation it was them. Certainly no confirmation that it was a murder at the time. And so like I was kind of watching all night to see what the updates were and when and if we would get confirmation that it was actually uh, Rob Reiner.
Yeah.
And so I watched a lot of the like facts kind of enter the bloodstream um, in real time. And in fact, in I think the People magazine article, um, and I might be flipping him. It might be Variety who did this, and People's the originator. But
hmm
like the two main sources I used that night were the People article and the Variety article. And in one of those articles, they specifically say, um, according to the other, that she'd taken that photo, but we can't find proof.
Yeah.
Um, because like there was it's funny every article because so many people were like trying to get it up quickly,
Yeah. Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
lot of people I think were just cutting and pasting. In any event, like the because so many people were like cutting and pasting, I think, and then cleaning up their copy.
Yeah.
Um, the initial article I read said that she had famously taken that photo. They
Yeah.
used
Yeah.
the adverb famously. And then every article that picked up the fact that she had done so used famously
Yeah.
because everybody who picked it up was all going from the same one source.
hmm
But Mrs. Reiner, I can't remember her first name,
Michelle.
Michelle Singer, didn't have her own independent Wikipedia page at that point. She probably does now.
Yeah.
Um, but like,
So I mean, so people interesting because like it's weird because like I control F through a bunch of the original stories and
yeah,
it's not mentioned, and I do remember it being mentioned before.
yeah,
But People Magazine now has a story, which an ad is blocking half the page.
yeah,
Is that she did? Michelle took the famous photo that graced the cover of his 1987 book. Um, so yeah, it was just such it's an interesting
mhm,
thing to watch as like we're both fact checkers in a different way.
yeah,
Like we're like two people that really obsess over at least trying to get it right the first time,
yeah,
especially on breaking news, which is so important. And it's just like one of those like because I went down like a little bit just on my phone, so like it wasn't a full.
yeah,
If I do a full research spread, I got 74 tabs open and I'm across.
yeah,
I'm like copying and pasting and I'm using like Google searching exact phrases like you said you did with the
yeah,
famously, um, and and so it's just always interesting to see in these moments because I mean I was just thinking back about the amount of absolute trash that was spread when Gene Hackman and his wife were found
yeah,
dead, and I still don't even know what happened. Like Alex Jones got obsessed with that story for some
mhm,
reason. Supposedly he had a dream that he was supposed to call Gene Hackman or something that he God told him to save and he didn't
yeah,
do it, which is its own thing weird to admit. But anyway, but it's I don't even want to get into all the other shit that's like with Rob Reiner's death. Like
yeah,
now, like the right wing has because of course Rob Reiner was a famous liberal. I
yeah,
don't know how to say, but like very loud and very
yeah,
and in a way that like De Niro is too. Except
yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to say accept because I actually don't know how much like De Niro like donates, but like Rob Reiner put his money where his mouth was, not only
Yeah,
in like
yeah.
funding
Well, and also,
documentaries and doing documentaries. Yeah,
like, I mean, absolutely no disrespect to De Niro when I say this, but
yeah,
his entire life, nobody has ever been curious
yeah,
about where Rob Reiner was
yeah,
coming
yeah,
from.
yeah, yeah,
Like the fact that he not started his career, because really he was on like Batman 66 and all
yeah,
kinds of stuff. But like the fact that he rose to public prominence as Mike on All in the Family,
yeah,
like
mhm,
it's it just the jokes wrote themselves
yeah,
because like he was a limousine liberal, which like a lot of the criticisms of his liberalism, which honestly it seems to me he got more um kind of ethically consistent as he aged, and by the end of his life there were very
yeah,
few criticisms of him.
yeah,
But like a lot of the criticisms of like the limousine liberal kind of mindset are the same criticisms that if you actually watched and paid attention to All in the Family
yeah,
could have been applied to the
yeah.
kind of shallow brand of
Written by most
liberalism.
for the most part by other limousine liberals
Yeah,
criticizing
yeah.
themselves. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. But like but in any event, like there's never been a question of where Reiner was coming from. Reiner's
mhm,
been very, the one of the big things that has been kind of pointed out a lot, which I think is very important, but also it crunches the timeline in a weird way, is that he started this organization that was the one that bankrolled the lawsuits that eventually led to gay marriage being legalized.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and that is without a question the most important thing that he ever did with his activism in his
yep,
lifetime. However, like it gives the impression that by the time he started doing notable things, it
yeah,
was 2005 or whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Because he was
and
also
and
famous. He was to his great respect, and I think he still is. That he's a person who went after Bush, and it
yeah,
was anti-war. You know, I mean, like as much as
yeah,
people were anti-war, and in
yeah,
it was more anti-Bush, I think, than anti-war. But that's
yeah.
something we
Well,
get
he
into.
also
Yeah,
like one of the things that I think one of the reasons I think you'll see a lot of people who are on the right um, kind of closing ranks a little bit and not attacking him in the way that Trump hopes
yeah,
is because he also like he did the first lady thing for a lot of years.
hmm,
Like he did a lot of like child and family services kind of like did like he and his wife co-founded an organization that like was all about early childhood
yeah.
development
First
and
five, yeah,
helping disabled kids. I know that some author that I follow, I can't remember who, but some author I follow on Threads had posted like this is the introduction to my book that Rob and Michelle wrote, and it was a book about like raising kids with autism.
yeah,
um and so like there's a lot of that kind of stuff that he did. So for as often as not, his activism and his uh gosh, what do you call
philanthropy,
financial activism, huh?
philanthropy, philanthropy.
Philanthropy,
Yeah,
yes, thank
yeah,
you. um were pretty inoffensive. Like really,
hmm,
it was only when he was directly criticizing high profile conservatives that he
yeah,
became controversial.
yeah,
Which again, not to say that didn't ever happen, because like Nixon fucking hated
hmm,
All in the Family.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but so like to me it's like I think one of the reasons you'll see a lot of people like I do think there's some people who are just like they're attempting the appearance of being morally consistent because of the Charlie
yeah,
Kirk thing.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I also think that like genuinely a
yeah.
lot of people like and respect him because like for the most part a lot of his philanthropy went into stuff that like you're kind of a piece of shit if you don't if you can't get behind like
Yeah.
early childhood education and helping women who are in abusive situations, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. One would hope that that would be a difficult thing to thing,
Yeah.
but we live in a society where, yeah, no, supposedly Rob Reiner to
Mm,
quote Donald Trump, which is something I detest doing, but
mm,
is that he was killed because of Trump derangement syndrome, like something
yeah.
that like even. I wouldn't say a lot of Republicans, but like some Republicans were like, what the fuck? Basically, it was
Yeah.
like literally like, what the fuck, dude? Like, you hate this guy, and that's fine. You can hate this guy. Like, he came after you. You guys have an adversarial,
Yeah.
Donald Trump is somebody who doesn't care about humanity. He only cares about himself.
Yeah.
And Rob Reiner is a successful film director and producer who has used that money to help humanity to some, however
Yeah.
level of different, whatever. But it's just,
Right.
it's Like
Yeah.
it is shown because there's like although like I do find kind of detest the comparison of like
Mm,
Charlie Kirk and Rob
right.
Reiner because I mean yes both two political like figures or whatever but like no one no one that didn't benefit Charlie Kirk personally
Yeah.
has said like basically has talked about what a great guy he was
Mm,
because he seemed to be a relatively detestable person in his personal life and
right.
and definitely like when he's on camera and whatever
Yeah.
and like that was his job fine you know fine
Right.
you know but like Rob Reiner could be you know an angry he could be you know I love Susan Sarandon and agree with her about 99% of things but like could be more of a Susan Sarandon type or something like that who's a
Mm,
little bit more you know adversarial and you know punching below the belt but like I
yeah.
never saw him you know even do De Niro shit where he's just like threatening although I would
Yeah.
pay any amount of money for that boxing fight whenever it's just
Yeah.
like you know De Niro's threatening Trump you know but it would be like literally like I would never use AI. I swear on this. I swear on a
Yeah.
Bible that I don't have, or I should have a Bible somewhere. Um, I should I was, oh here you go. I swear on this copy of the Monkey Wrench Gang by Edward
Yeah.
Abbey that I wouldn't use AI, but like to put together a movie, like take that Stallone where they're two, where he comes to the it's Stallone and then whatever they're two agent, you
Yeah.
know, way out of the yeah that movie that no one should have made and that somebody along the way should have said, guys, stop.
Yeah.
But but yeah, but anyway, but before we go too long, because what was your if you had to like what was your favorite Reiner film? Because that's something I was kind of thinking about because like all of his films kind of sit in this like if I were to say like top 200 films
Yeah.
like just because like they're like absolutely fantastic films. They're great. A lot of
Yeah.
them like aren't things that I like watch normally. I think a lot because like, oh my God, if I ever see The Princess Bride again, I had a cousin, well, or had a cousin, I still have a cousin, but like when she was younger, that's the only film she wanted to watch. And so
I
like
had
it's
a
like one of
cousin
those
until she made me watch that movie.
when she made me watch Princess Bride, and I said, "You know what? I'm the Dread Pirate Roberts, you motherfucker." Sorry. Sorry. I hope
Um,
my cousin Elizabeth isn't listening. Anyway, it'd be really weird if you were. Hello, Liz.
I mean, for me personally, I think that my favorites, the ones that I like would go back and watch like recreationally,
Yeah,
the most are Stand By Me, uh, Misery, and The American President.
yeah,
Like The American President is probably the one that I've seen the most times. Um, and like I don't know, I feel like we are now in the kind of like this post-ironic period where we're looking at like the many shortcomings of the West Wing,
yeah.
and so like it's that show's less romanticized, and kind of by extension, the
Mhm.
American President gets less romanticized, and so like I haven't watched it in a while because I feel like I'll put it on and I'm worried that I'm not gonna like it anymore.
Yeah.
But um, but like those are the three that I've definitely put on like on a boring afternoon like at
Mhm.
least a dozen times.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if I've ever actually seen When Harry Met Sally front to back. Um, it's definitely a movie that we used to put on at the video store.
Yeah.
Like, so I've seen all of the movie in increments,
Yeah.
but I don't know that I've ever sat down and watched it and like gotten a sense for the pacing and stuff. I just know the jokes. Um,
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I've been kind of I've been wanting to kind of write something about this about the fact that America that liberals need um I'm trying to figure out what the right phrasing for is, but I think liberals need more inspirational like history porn in the way
mhm.
that the right does. Like I spent, you know, for Thanksgiving holiday, I was home and my stepfather was watching, you know, either switching back between football and which is I always forget how much I mean anyway, how much I fucking hate football and how loud anyway. But and like History Channel, like American
Mm,
history stuff and like how fucking horrible it all is, how ahistorical it is, how separated from reality that it
yeah.
is, and it's just to feed into somebody who is literally like in somebody like my stepfather is in his 70s, conservative, pretty
Mhm.
sure voted for Trump. Kind of like that kind of like mindset, the not he's not a woke mind virus guy or anything like that. I
Right.
don't
Yeah.
think if I cornered him, he might be. I don't know, but I don't. We don't talk about politics. And well, I do, but anyway, I do to him, but it's usually snarkily, and then I walk out of the room. But it's one of those. I'm like, that's why, like, as much as like I get what everyone says about the West Wing, it's
Right.
delusional. It's it makes you think that people could be like that or are like that, or and then there's
Mm.
like the comparison of the like the West Wing and the Obama administration, where it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, just people trying to do the best thing for everybody, and that's what it is, and trying to work with the Republicans and trying to whatever. And it's just like, but the West Wing is fiction, guys. Like, we don't like watch like Tom Cruise hanging off the side of a helicopter or whatever and go, well, kids are, this is might give a people wrong idea that you
Yeah.
can hang off the side of it. No, it's clearly an action. And I think that obviously I think this is a little bit of fault of Aaron Sorkin and the fact that he
Yeah.
has embedded himself and that one of the writers of the West Wing or producer, I forget where Lawrence O'Donnell fits in,
Yeah.
is a
He
commentator.
he was
And
both. He was a writer
yeah,
EP.
and so like he was a he's on there and kind of like pushing this line. I don't think that he
Yeah,
does
when
it
they
like
did the documentary about
yeah,
Ralph Nader,
yeah,
you had Lawrence
yeah,
O'Donnell like commenting as an expert, but at that time he wasn't at
yeah,
MSNBC yet, I don't think, and so it
yeah.
was just
He had
he was
worked. I think he had
credited
worked
as
in the administration. He had worked in some administration beforehand. I
I.
think
That's what I
I
was
think
gonna
it's
say.
Carter or something. But
I don't remember where he worked, but like there was definitely I remember in
mhm.
that documentary he was credited
But
as like
yeah,
writer on the West Wing instead of writer.
yeah,
And I think also some of that is a failure of education. Some of that is like because like with the West Wing, because they got into like procedural
mhm,
nonsense, um, and because we are so bad at educating people about how government works,
yeah,
there became this thing where like high school teachers would make you watch episodes of the West Wing to show you
totally.
how like
Yeah,
the filibuster's supposed to
mhm,
work and stuff like that. And so I think that like it created this unfair expectation
yeah,
that it's an educational show
yeah,
and not a fantasy.
yeah,
Because I don't think anybody on that staff believed that they were writing a documentary about Bill Clinton.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I to me it's like I think so. I agree with you completely. I do, however, like I've heard and internalized enough of the criticism that it's harder to watch these
yeah.
days. It's just not
No,
as
it's
fun.
yeah. I definitely agree as well. Where like I have the box set and it's a very nice box set. Like and
Yeah,
I'm
it
like I'll
looks like
never
those
get rid of it.
top
Yeah.
secret files. I should put it in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
bathroom.
yeah. But like we, haha, very nice reference. That's a deep pull. But sadly, it's just because there's been so many fucking things
Yeah,
that keeping secretive files in your toilet at your mansion in Florida is somehow like a thing that like isn't like
that we've all
still.
forgotten
Yeah,
about
it's like
collectively.
literally
Yeah,
a memory hold it because there's just so much stuff on top. But
yeah.
it is one of those. It's like I just like talking about the American president. Like I still watch that and
Oh
like
yeah.
I tear up a little bit. And
Well, the American
I mean,
president is delightful
yeah.
because like it really doesn't have a lot of the flaws
Yeah,
of the West Wing.
yeah,
Because again, a lot of the flaws of the West Wing are where it tries to act like
yeah,
it's educating you
yeah,
and it tries to like, and again, those flaws I think are both totally real and existent and also overstated. I don't mean to crap all over the West Wing.
yeah,
But like I do think that like the fact that this is a movie that's fundamentally like about the relationship and
mhm,
then the politics are kind of window dressing
yeah,
allows you to kind of overlook some of the silliness in the American
yeah,
president in a way that you can't with the West Wing. Because with
yeah,
the West Wing, you'll have like a very special episode where your main character gets shot,
yeah,
and
yeah.
um,
It's something that I just because I'm like I think that like because I mean like I would love to see it's something I was trying talking with the Zen Institute ages ago and just be like wouldn't
mm,
it kind of be great if we could have like a real like adaptation of
the
people's
people's
history.
history.
And I've gotten there was a lot of correct and good criticisms of Zen that
Yeah,
he kind of does what I'm saying. He does that for the left. He kind of
yeah,
glorifies and amplifies the people's and unions and stuff like that
yeah,
over thing. But I'm like, you know what? I don't give a goddamn shit about the military formations of Patton in the 40s more than I care about that I care about what was actually, but I've never seen a film. I've never seen anything about what
Mhm.
FDR was doing to try to fund, to try to win the war, to try to do
Yeah.
anything. And it's just like that to me is way more interesting because like it has like actual practical application and
Mhm.
could influence people in a way that, but we have tons of that about, right wing,
Yeah.
right wing shit. And they have that so much. I mean, Bill O'Reilly's written a dozen books. You have
Yeah.
all of the Fox News broadcasters have like the ahistorical kind of stuff that they're
Yeah.
continually pumping out because they're probably not writing it for
And
the most part. But
ironically, to like center the
mhm,
conversation again, like towards the end of his career, that is what
yeah,
Reiner was trying to do in a lot
yeah,
of cases. Like he did those two back-to-back movies with Woody Harrelson. One of them was about LBJ, and then the other one was, I think, a criticism of the Bush
shock and
administration.
awe. Yeah.
Um, and so like it's interesting that you kind of talk about the way that these things are lacking. And I do think like the fact that um I think the fact that The West Wing is 20 years old probably
Mhm,
has fueled some of this cynicism around it.
yeah,
Because, like, we don't have anything right now that's like a liberal fantasy that, like, speaks to our current moment.
yeah, yeah,
And so, like, when you look at The West Wing, I think a lot of the criticism, and, and again, you can apply this to the American president and try to keep it relevant to the Reiner
yeah.
conversation. But I think that, like, a lot of the reason that people find it, um, problematic or cringe or any of the things that it's called sometimes. I think a lot of that is simply because um, we know the ending.
Hmm.
Like we know that none of the like ebullient like patriotism of 2000 mattered after 9/11.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and obviously the West Wing went on past 9/11, but they continued to basically be a show set in the 90s,
yeah,
just in a world where 9/11
yeah.
happened once. And
And I think that's like to again to bring it back to Reiner is that like I think that like that kind of all he came out of in so many ways all in the family
yeah,
politically whatever um that kind of liberal kind of mentality, which like I would say that I'm somewhat oppositional to liberals
yeah,
because I'm a lefty, but is that like that there can be hope and like lefty has kind of like we have like a delusional level, like a truly delusional, like this idea of,
yeah,
but like our goals are bigger than the goals of like prison evolution,
yeah,
absolution, and like all everything that we was like universal health care and whatever. Like
mhm,
do I think that any of those things are ever going to happen in my lifetime? Fuck no, not in America.
right,
Do we fight towards them? Yes. And I think that like that's something that I saw in Rob Reiner that like I mean, the fact that like he did a film about called Shock and Awe about the Bush administration in 2017 after the Obama administration had completely ignored doing any and everyone had just moved
yeah,
on. And at that point, the Bush administration had now become okay because they were oppositional to Trump. And so it's like
yeah,
the fact that you would come out like to me that reads as something only a lefty, like a true lefty would fucking do because there's no
yeah,
fucking way a liberal does that because they were trying to reform the Bush administration, go back to the norms of the early 2000s,
yeah,
when everything and everybody got together okay and there wasn't racism and there wasn't sexism and and
yeah,
and gay marriage was well. So let's not talk about that. Yeah, okay. Which
yeah,
is I think that like something was like when you where you put your money where your mouth is, and that's something as a as a producer on this stuff, and it's just like
mm,
it's. I kind of wish that Coppola would have done something a little bit more. Obviously, he's not per se a political director, but like done
right,
something more than the film I still haven't been able to see because it was never
yeah.
out. It's only out in theaters,
Yeah.
and only in big cities. So it's like, but
I,
yeah,
I
yeah.
I will say too, like one of the things I do really like about the lad, like I I admire the fact that Reiner used his platform
Mhm.
in kind of the various ways that we've talked about.
Yeah.
But I like personally as a movie goer who enjoys most of his movies. Um I'm really glad that like not only am I like part of me is like happy that we got Spinal Tap 2 as a nice
Yeah.
bookend,
Yeah.
but on top of that, like I don't know if you saw the documentary he did about Albert Brooks.
I haven't seen it
Um
yet. No, it's something that's been like it's on my HBO
I've only
list. Yeah.
watched like half of it because like I put them on when the kids are at school and then I never get to finish things.
Yeah.
But like it's a delight. And again, like there's a bunch of those on HBO. Like It's arguably like the things that I watch the most on HBO is they have these like mega documentaries. They
Yeah.
did one about Gary Shandling, which is masterful, and it was
Yeah.
directed by Judd Apatow,
Mhm.
who was friends with Gary, and like so you have this thing of like the director interviewing himself a little bit about
Yeah.
you know um, which I will say the only thing that I will criticize that documentary for is you're doing a thing about Gary Shandling
Yeah.
and you don't do anything meta or funny when you're interviewing yourself. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like the Albert Brooks one is great in part because Albert Brooks is such a great subject.
Yeah.
Like, and so the idea of like and like I don't like I think most people, if you ask them like name your five favorite directors, Rob Reiner probably wouldn't come up. Then you look at like that, famously there's the run
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
five movies in a row that he had that were just incredibly critically and commercially successful. Um, the
And
there's
I would
the
say that like one thing that I like about Rob, like about directors and stuff that like
mhm.
Rob Reiner, um, it's not a Rob Reiner film. I mean, it
Right,
obviously is, and like you kind of step back and you go, okay, I can
mhm.
see the similarities, but it's not
Right,
like especially we have not commented on the Tarantino bullshit with Paul
yeah,
Dano and things like that. But anyway, we will at some point because I have opinions and
yeah.
this is my only way. No one else. My dog Bowden is tired of me hearing ranting about how great Paul Dano is and everything he's ever done. But and Matthew Lillard is fantastic and I feel bad. The third actor that he listed. Anyway, but
Owen
uh,
Wilson was the third
Owen
one. That's
Wilson. Okay,
debatable.
Owen Wilson can whatever. He's anyway. But you keep
He's
starting
got Wes
films with
Anderson. He's fine.
yeah, but you keep starting in Woody Allen films and you can kind of whatever. But it's the fact that like it doesn't he directs to fit the film, like
Hmm.
not Tarantino or other directors, like kind of
Yeah,
it's just kind of just some Spielberg does the same thing. Like there's a generation of directors, that
yeah,
like no, it's still a Spielberg film. You can
yeah,
watch it. You like the new trailer for his new film, which looks I'm so excited. I forget if it's Disclosure or Full Disclosure. It's about aliens coming to
yeah,
and you're like, oh, that's a fucking Spielberg film. Oh man, that is
yeah.
like there's oneers, there's like the pans, the
Hmm.
everything that he does. You're like, oh, that exudes it. But it's not like it doesn't have to have Spielberg is the addition to be like, oh, what's kind of coming to some extent, but it's
Right.
not like, oh, this is a Tarantino film. There's going to be feet and there's going to be his own proclivities,
Yeah,
and there's going to be a white guy saying the N word because we can do this, and things like that,
yeah,
where it's just like, no, 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 everything goes towards the film, and if it's like, like A Few Good Men is
yeah,
not like Misery. Those are
yeah,
two fucking different films,
yeah. Well,
and
and
like the
actually, that's
directing and everything.
one of the things that because I'm writing like a longer piece for the blog for the Emerald
Mhm.
City blog about Reiner, and because I had posted on Blue Sky, I think you reposted it, something along the lines of like because of the breadth and impact of his work, both like in Hollywood and in activism, and then like the horrors of how he died. Like I wrote that obituary and immediately I was like, there's not nearly enough in there. Like
Yeah,
there's not, you can't do it justice in the time that you have to write an obituary.
yeah, yeah,
On the internet especially because
yeah,
on the internet, the expectation is like I needed to get that up before I went to bed that night.
yeah,
Um, and so like I'm writing like a longer piece that looks at his legacy a little bit more, talks a little bit more about the films and kind of his fingerprint and stuff. And one of the things, like the conclusion that I kind of have come to, is that he's a kind of filmmaker that the modern market simply does not support.
yeah,
Like this, again, like I'm gonna go back to this meme that's been everywhere, where they just screenshotted his first, depending on the version you look at, either five or seven
mhm,
movies or whatever. Um, and it's like taken in their totality over the course of like 6 years, he made these five movies that are all completely different fucking films. And also, like, you could make a fairly legitimate argument that at least three or four of them are the best of the genre.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. And
it's
also
really
like a film
easy.
that any individual, if just like that guy did that one film, he is one of the great directors and
Yeah,
could do a bunch
yeah,
of other crap or whatever throughout his career. any individual one of those, like the guy that did Misery, the guy that did whatever, it's like
Yeah.
that's okay. Yeah, you
We
can rest on your
we
laurels for that
we
one.
kind of talked about this a little bit last time with I'm blanking on his name now, the screenwriter who did Taxi Driver, Paul.
Oh my God, yeah, yeah, yeah. I know you're talking about. Yes, yeah.
Like he's done some other interesting films over the course of his career, but he's never done another anything remotely as influential or successful as Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Um,
Paul Schrader.
and Paul Schrader, thank you.
Yeah,
And like no disrespect to Paul Schrader, like
yeah,
he's done good movies. He's had a
yeah,
really impressive career, but like I don't know that his career would have been afforded a lot of the opportunities it was if he didn't have I'm the screenwriter of Taxi Driver to fall back on.
yeah.
Like that one thing gives you so much credibility.
Hmm.
And like again, like you said, Reiner had seven of those in a row,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like it's funny because like the version of the meme that's been circulating the most is the one that cuts out his first two movies because like a lot of people don't remember the Sure Thing.
yeah.
Um, and I think the Sure Thing is a fun, underrated comedy, but
Yeah,
it's
we should,
not like
we'll have to do
generational.
it. We'll have to do a thing on it just because it is like
Yeah,
in that set where it's just like it's also of that era of like those type
yeah,
of films. There was like beach films, like it was such a weird like
yeah.
1980s
I
era that's like very
I
clearly 1950s, but like we're taking 1950s like Beach Boys films and putting
yeah.
them in like the
Well, and
1980s with like yeah,
The Sure Thing, I think, was a direct remake of a movie of like a Golden Age of Hollywood movie. I can't remember which one, but I was told by somebody at one point that it's an actual remake. Whereas like Summer Rental
yeah,
is just vibes. It's like the same kind of movie. But in any case, like the thing that's interesting to me is that like you can make this argument about, movies three through seven or whatever, but also like by doing that and lopping off the first two, you ignore the fact that this is Spinal Tap is one of maybe the five best directorial debuts
yeah,
ever.
yeah,
Like, how many people come out of the gate with a feature that everybody remembers 50 years later?
yeah, yeah.
Like,
And also
it,
like we mockumentary kind of shit now. It's like it's another one of those things. But like that
yeah,
in that era when it came out, I think there had been like maybe a couple things that were kind of vaguely like that that
yeah.
people
It was a
attempted to
very
do.
arty idea
Yeah.
on paper, and it was not a commercial idea on paper. Like, if I'm remembering correctly from his autobiography, I think Norman Lear fronted most of the money because nobody wanted to buy the damn thing.
Hmm.
Um, and so like to me it's like yeah that like I'm actually it's not one of my favorite movies. I don't know why, but like I am in awe of like accomplishing that as your directorial feature.
Yeah.
Like even if it's not my particular jam, the fact that you made arguably the best mockumentary ever and one of the got to be top 10 best directorial features or directorial debuts
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Because even when you look at shit like it's like you look at like Clerks. I think Clerks is a masterpiece. I fucking love Kevin Smith,
Yeah.
but like normal people don't walk around quoting Clerks,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and like you can all those guys who we look at from our generation who are like the next generation of masters. It's like Tarantino's first film was Reservoir Dogs, which like is a film geek. It's like a film school movie.
Yeah.
Like people sitting around tables and smoking love it, but like
Yeah.
people when normal people think of Quentin, they're like, oh, the Pulp Fiction guy.
Yeah.
Um, and Slacker, same thing. All these guys who came up in our generation, like no, and again, not to crap on those guys. I'm just saying, like almost nobody comes out of the gate with fucking this is Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. No. Yeah.
um, and so like it's interesting because again, like I objectively knew that Reiner had worked on all these movies, but it really is like when he passed away and I'm like working on the obit and it's like you're looking at it. I had that same like I know why that person created that meme. It's because when they were looking at it, they had the same experience I did of just going like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
And the thing I'll say is that that meme has been around long for a long time.
no,
That
okay.
I've seen that on Reddit and seen that around.
Yeah.
We're just kind of talking about, especially there's a weird like within like movie Twitter, movie Blue Sky,
Yeah.
whatever, that there's a weird like I don't think it's attached to anything necessarily political.
Mhm.
But it's to kind of be like, oh, no, like these filmmakers from the 80s, filmmakers from whatever are like these great directors. I don't I it again, as somebody who works in extremism and is always like, anytime
Mhm.
there's like, wait, why are we obsessing to saying that this person, like
Yeah.
reminding this great director that everybody should know that is a great, and I think it feels like it's like, okay, is there anything racism, sexism, like what's going on? He's a white
Yeah.
male director. You may not know Rob Reiner is political. And I'm like, it probably just comes out of like the massive generational shift that you've had from
Mhm.
like people that are getting out of, that are doing film writing now
Yeah.
or to writing about film like in their early 20s, and our generation where we just saw like Stand By Me was just on fucking TV. Like
Yeah.
nobody had to put that tape in or DVD or
Yeah.
whatever in and show it to us. But like kids these days,
Yeah.
they have to go fucking look for it because there's
Oh
no,
yeah.
and they're like, why would you click on the, if there's 35 different things on your, tiles of Netflix
Yeah.
or whatever, why would you click on Stand By Me? I have absolutely no idea. I mean, like, there's no sexy, clip or whatever.
Yeah.
No one's currently writing about it. None of the
Yeah.
actors that are in it are, in some big film now or some set,
Mhm.
whatever. And so it is like, I think that every once in a while you'll just have somebody be like, oh my God, I just saw this film because it was on Tubi and I was like, fuck it,
Yeah.
I'll click the, try, give it a try. And then they make a big deal out of it because,
Yeah.
like this film you've never seen before. And it's just like,
Yeah.
what? You haven't seen The Princess Bride or
Yeah.
some shit? It's like
I
it's
mean,
always something, and I'm like, okay,
I,
I have to
you know where I
remember
see
that.
that?
Yeah.
Because I've seen exactly the kind of videos you're talking about, and
Yeah.
the place that they come from when I've seen it, this for Stand By Me specifically,
Yeah.
but also Shawshank, is people who are finding it via Stephen King.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Okay.
people who see The Running Man and are like, "Oh shit, like
Yeah.
Stephen King's actually kind of legit." And then they like go back and backfill and they're like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
Like, so many people when they find Stand By Me and they're like Stephen King rewatch. And again, like obviously people our age, like it's a huge movie, it's a touchstone. People
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
it. And like I remember being like 11 and being like, "Holy shit, that's a Stephen King thing? That's
Yeah.
crazy."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but like I think people younger than us for whom like that movie isn't already a cultural touchstone and doesn't have like buzz,
Hmm.
have a totally different reaction to it where they're just like they're usually finding it like in between Carrie and Cujo,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It's also, I think it's also for us, it was one of the reasons I think it was such a big deal in a way that like it was often like I saw it probably earlier than I should have. You saw it
Mm.
earlier,
Oh yeah,
11
for
was
sure.
earlier than any, we should see it. And so, because again, that's the way that like those films were like, maybe even if we knew about this film or it's just like, oh, you can't see it, then we'll seek it out. I mean, I think about like, like how I saw Clerks and Kids in the same night. Um, because I rented a couple films that it must have been
I
Chimneys when I was
I feel like
16, and I was
was
like,
I
I
there for that? Because I
no,
feel
no,
like
no,
I
no.
might have seen those two in the same
It
night.
was it was before it was at my I remember it was at my aunt's house because it was the only place, it was like whatever, and I remember being like volume down
Yeah.
because I was allowed to stay up. It was a weekend, my it was my aunt and my grandmother. They probably Clerks they probably would have been fine with. Kids they probably would have said
Yeah.
no, which was the right answer because
Yeah.
I
Oh
remember
yeah.
being like, oh my. But I'm like, but there's
Weirdly,
like, yeah.
I was at Target the other day.
Mhm.
I think they have the kids soundtrack on vinyl at Target. If they don't, then they have a different thing
Yeah.
that is a soundtrack and it looks like the same font that says
Yeah,
kids.
yeah.
Like I it's weird to imagine that in 2025 Target has the kids soundtrack on
Yeah.
vinyl,
They have a lot of
but
weird
like
shit though. So I mean, but
yeah,
also
I
like
just
it's weird that like I don't necessarily remember the soundtrack that much, but who knows?
yeah.
I don't. I think I literally saw it once when I was 16. I was like,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. I mean, it's a good
Yeah.
film. There's no question about
No,
that. But
absolutely nothing. I mean,
like
but
for what it is. But it's just like it is like there's a bunch of those films where you're like, I'm pretty sure that
I
was
don't think
enough.
I've ever seen anything by Larry Clark that I wanted to see twice. And
Yeah.
that's like
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
because he's not good.
Yeah.
Um,
But
although
yeah.
he fucking despised Jim from Emerald City Video. Um, I don't remember what the scenario, what the situation was, but I remember that him and Larry Clark really hated each other, and Jim only carried one copy of Gummo,
Yeah.
and only like by customer request. Originally, he was like, "No, fuck that guy."
Yeah. That's very for people listening. It's like that's the owner of the Emerald
Yeah,
City
the
Video,
owner.
yeah, and like he was very big in the independent video. What is it? Associate whatever
Yeah,
independent
the
video
Video
association.
Software Dealers of
Oh,
America.
okay,
He was the president for a while.
yeah.
Like
So he would have
he
been,
was
yeah,
Yeah, he was very involved in indie video
yeah,
in the 90s and 2000s.
yeah,
Like and not a super active owner of the store in terms of like his son managed the store for a while and then handed it off to me and handed it off to Logan. But
mhm,
like Jim like was always like it was his money and like
mhm,
if you were ever in the store for our three Syracuse listeners who listen to the
mhm.
show,
Yeah.
all the props that were on the walls and stuff belonged to Jim and actually he still has them at like a little film museum in Auburn. Um but uh but yeah, so like Jim and Jim always had the funnest weird interactions. At one point he tripped over Jeff Goldblum at the Adult Video Expo,
Yeah.
like at the AVN show, which is like mostly porn, but not
Mhm.
exclusively. Um, and I don't know what Goldblum was. I think he was tying his shoes or something.
Yeah.
But Jim didn't see him and tripped over him.
Yeah.
And apparently, like Goldblum got up and was really mad and was like, "How the fuck do you not see me? I'm like 6'7". But like Jim was also like 6'5",
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so it's just these two like gigantic dudes like sitting there arguing. I'm sure that the porn stars were worried something was going to happen.
Yeah, but it would have been very important if you're an independent film director to probably at least have a good relationship. That was my to have a good
Oh yeah,
relationship with somebody like him. It wasn't like a random video store clerk, your
yeah,
owner in Syracuse, New York. But
yeah, yeah.
it's yeah, no, it's yeah, I forget how we got there from from
It's
Rob Reiner, but it's yeah,
I don't
it's
remember either, honestly, at this point. But the like going back to where we were before, one of the things about because we were talking a lot, we were talking about how like a lot of Reiner's stuff isn't as immediately
oh yeah, how they
recognizable as
how
Reiner.
kids find his films and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, yeah,
But like yeah, it's to me it's really interesting to see like because like again to us who like grew up in the video store, it's super easy to kind of look at that batch of movies and be like, oh yeah, that dude didn't made those.
yeah,
Um, I in that piece that I'm writing, I started saying this like a month ago and didn't finish it. In that piece that I'm writing, I'm kind of like one of my the things that I'm talking about is how like it's a career that couldn't exist right now
yeah,
because like the the only person you'll see out there right now who not the only person but like one of the only people you'll see who's able to like leap from genre to genre and kind of do whatever thing tickles his fancy
yeah,
is somebody like Chris Nolan.
yeah,
Um, and like Chris Nolan only gets to do that because his movies make $1 billion. And because his movies make $1 billion, there's an expectation that each of his movies is going to make $1 billion. And so you're going to spend 200 million to make it.
yeah,
And it's like a lot of the stuff in Reiner's career, like you couldn't break even if you spent $200 million on
yeah,
it. Like and like yeah, obviously you say that about rom-coms and like in general rom-coms are kind of out of favor now.
yeah,
But I think that like more broadly than that, like I think it's like they don't because people don't make kind of these mid-budget movies that were most of Reiner's career.
yeah,
It's like you couldn't get away with doing A Few Good Men now because like they'd want to make it $150 million blockbuster and they would
yeah,
expect it to
yeah,
like make $600 million and clean up at the Oscars,
yeah.
you know?
Well, Tom Cruise would have to be paid $25 million, especially
Yeah, I mean that
now. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure he would probably if he loved the script well enough or whatever. But you know that he actors like that, they're just like they'll do it
mm,
for scale, they'll do it for a small amount or whatever, just so he can get the film
yeah,
done
I mean,
because
I assume
it's reasonable.
I
But
mean, here's the thing though with Tom Cruise, and this is a total tangent, but
yeah,
just like it's an interesting point. I think, like, I definitely think Cruise is the kind of guy who will do something for scale if he loves your movie.
hmm
Um, I think you'll see that you see that with like Paul Thomas Anderson with Magnolia. I think you see that almost certainly with um the Jungle War comedy. Um, Robert Downey
oh
Jr.
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
Black Ops.
Oh my God, Oh my God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. With the
Yeah, my brain's
yeah.
completely
Anyway,
gone here.
yeah, yeah,
But like that movie, I guarantee he didn't get paid Tom Cruise money for because he was,
yeah,
not only not in it for very long, but also unrecognizable to the casual viewer.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but like he doesn't do movies where he's the lead for a little bit of money.
Tropic
Like he
Thunder.
really only does like he's kind of like Spielberg.
Mhm.
Like Spielberg is involved in a lot of things.
Yeah,
But if he's directing it, it's gonna be a big deal.
yeah,
And Cruise is the same way. I think Cruise puts money into stuff. Cruise apparently or occasionally cameos and stuff. But if Tom Cruise is your leading man, like it's a thing.
yeah.
It's
I
gonna
think
be
he
out of
also,
the
I mean,
audience.
it was just a weird Tom Cruise side. It was just like, I think he's also one of the actors, like he produces what
Yeah,
he's in now for the most part. If he's starring
yeah,
like so it's like, it's always this weird, it's like he's paying himself basically to some
yeah,
extent because he's usually an EP, which like that means executive producer, whether what that means is everything from he put up
yeah,
the money to he's the guy that put people in the room together to do, and
yeah,
so it's
exactly.
kind of not necessarily a meaningful term for somebody like Tom Cruise, but I would assume that he he's either all in or not, I mean, like when it
Yeah,
comes to that type of stuff. But it is yeah, it's I mean, I think that most people, like if somebody was going to try to do a Rob Reiner career now, which I don't know how you try to do that, but I
yeah.
think you're on TV. I mean, you're not on TV, but you're doing like
You're doing
TV.
TV.
Not
Yeah,
you're not doing like feature films. Certainly not films that want to have go into the theaters or whatever. Because like
yeah.
all of those films, like somebody Scott Mendelson was did a tweet about talking about Running Man. Um, oh fuck, what was the other two films? But like three films that like didn't do well, but like should have done well. But like, and like the one that he said was like Running Man. There was just no saving that film, and I think that like one of the things was is like how does that film come back out of like what $150 million or whatever, like
Yeah.
the budget. And it's just like, yeah, no, I mean, I think there was a time where that could have done it, but I mean, like
Oh,
we
for sure.
watch, but like that doesn't exist anymore, and it's just like, why are we making these films to some extent,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like, and I get that, like I don't fucking care, like there's certain films like One Battle After Another, I'm like, I don't give a
Mhm.
shit, I want that film made. I know it's going
Yeah,
to lose money. If it breaks even, then fucking awesome. And I think that like Running Man, could you have made that film for $100 million and then made money on it, because it probably is going to make 100 mil eventually or
yeah,
whatever, whatever the deals are, um but yeah, I mean, especially consider, I mean, I don't know. I fucking loved it. I've seen it twice in the theaters. It's such a good
Mhm.
theater film. I don't know what it'll be like even on a 40-inch, 60-inch plasma or
Right.
whatever. But it is like same thing with like One Battle After Another, where it's just,
Yeah.
it's one of the best film experiences I've ever had in my life. I won't make any dirty jokes. But it's just like it's such a film that needs to be seen in a screen, and it's like
Yeah.
it's terrible that like I think it's probably going to get another. I'm sure it'll get an Oscar release kind of
Oh,
thing.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'll get
Like
some
we'll
here.
have to go see it because you haven't seen it yet, have you?
No, I still
Oh
haven't.
my God, yeah, you got
I
it's
haven't had a chance to see
yeah,
basically anything lately
yeah,
because I'm broke all the
yeah.
time.
It's
Um,
we'll have to. It's such a problem where it's just like I want you to see that so I can talk about it, but I also
yeah,
want you to see it on the fucking big screen the first time you see it,
right.
because it's like even if it is just a small screen at 50-seat theater or whatever, but it's just
Yeah.
like the difference of like being, yeah, and it's such, yeah, anyway, but yeah, I mean, I think that's also like bring it finally, it's like we can obviously have to wrap it up because you have to run in a couple. We've gone long past our short little talk about whatever.
Yeah, and
um
then we can do a second episode tomorrow. That's
yeah.
the second half of what we intended to do today.
Yeah, yeah. There's also another one that I forgot that we were going to talk about, bronies, and thing, which
Oh
is
yeah,
actually what I really wanted to talk about today to get
yeah,
that story out, because I promised everybody online that we were going to tell the story about. Anyway, I won't tell
yeah,
more than that. That'll be a weird tease for people who aren't on
yeah.
my blue sky. And like,
Not
what
yeah,
did we talk
exactly.
about fucking bronies? But yeah, but it's just like I think that's with his films, like they're not films. I mean, they're great, like I obviously like think for the most part I think I saw Misery. I'm trying to remember age wise what I would have seen, but like I
Mhm.
saw movies way too young because my aunt
Yeah,
was always watching me, and so it was just like I want to go see this. Like I saw My Life as a Dog in theaters when I was 5 years old. Like which like is a film that famously has like child 11-year old like nude shit. It makes sense
Yeah.
in the film. Like watch the film. It's a fantastic movie. But it was a weird, it's like I saw 8 millimeter with my grandparents when I was 14 and or
Mm.
grandmother when I was 14 and things like that. So
Yeah.
but these are films that like are so theatrical. Like I don't know, it's just like a vibe that like I think certain films have that I'm like, and I think maybe it's the fact that they're shot on film and there's a depth to them,
Right.
that they're like, so many, like Misery is for the most part like just it all happens in one room, but you don't really,
Hmm.
like I would say 80% of the film probably. I'm trying to remember it, it's been a while.
I wonder too, like, because color is such an important part of Misery, and it's definitely a huge part of When
Yeah,
Harry Met Sally
yeah,
and The Sure Thing. And it does kind of make me wonder if, like, the washed out color palettes of modern digital filmmaking,
yeah,
if that's part of why things feel so same. And like,
yeah,
obviously, it's trendy to shit on like desaturated color grading, but like, I do kind of wonder, like, if there's something really to that when it comes to Reiner in particular. It's like,
yeah,
no, like color is a big thing that is part of the way he composed shots when he was shooting on film,
yeah.
and like
Because I
it's
mean,
just not a thing anymore.
even though most of it happens in a courtroom, A Few Good Men, the color, like it's so distinct, it's so sharp, and obviously, I think again, like
Yeah.
so much of that is film. It's just shooting
Yeah.
on that era film. Because I mean, there's so many YouTube videos that are like, why does Indiana Jones 19, in the 80s
Yeah.
look so much better than Indiana Jones like releasing? It's like, let's fucking film, guys. Like, we don't need a 16-minute long diatribe about
Yeah.
it's film and it's you have and like the transfers and lighting and stuff like that. I mean, there's this great
Mhm.
video I'd recommend searching it, talking about the lighting director talking to Rob Reiner about shooting this scene that was just a walking shot along a New York City street in When Harry Met Sally,
Mhm.
um, and about how he had to like light all these different little spots. And it's just a fascinating talking about lighting. For some reason, YouTube is like, you must see this again. And I've seen it like
Yeah.
17 times. And I love listening because the lighting director, I feel bad if I can't remember his name, but talking about it. I don't think he was the lighting director. Yeah, no, he's lighting. But it's, just things like that where like creating a depth to it, which is like, I was just
Mhm.
watching, trying to remember what film I was seeing. It was like one of the big digital release, and it's very clearly shot on Netflix, digital
Yeah.
like Netflix cleared digital cameras. And I'm like, this film should have so much more grain and like depth to it. I think maybe it was like the new Bigelow film, Catherine Bigelow film, Dynamite, House of Dynamite, where it was just
Okay.
like it just didn't like it was shot so well and edited so well, but the still it just didn't feel like it had any depth. It felt like it was a Netflix film. I mean, it's just like it just
Yeah.
felt like that versus, again,
We
like
should we should have a whole episode one of these days where we talk, and we'd have to like watch some movies in
yeah,
advance and really break it down. But like, there's got to be a conversation about the drawing comparisons between Netflix movies and like the shot on shitio stuff of the early '80s.
well, I mean, I
Uh,
think that we've talked briefly about this. Like, you got like 7 minutes, right? You're 5 minutes.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay. We'll finish on this, but we talked briefly about this when we spoke about oh my God, the film, the restoration film. Um,
Riverbend.
yeah, Riverbend, where it was just like this is just a not again not. I think we've talked long enough about how great this film and how much we love this film, but like it looks so fucking good, and it's just a
Mhm.
random 1980s film that like
Yeah.
came out with no big. I mean, I had some big name actors for the time, whatever, but like it wasn't like, oh, it was the big action. It wasn't like
Right.
Schwarzenegger or somebody was in it, and it was just like it looks so fucking good. And every shot, it looks just the depth and the color and the everything. Even before the restoration, you can kind of see it was there,
Yeah.
and it's just like you're gonna like look at these. It's so weird that people want to produce films like this, because I mean there's no excuse for it, because I mean you can look at um you look at the film Fincher shoots on digital
Yeah.
cameras
Yeah.
now, and the films look good. I obviously the difference between Seven and The
Yeah.
Killer or whatever is like miles. Like I wish he wouldn't shoot on film, but a guy that likes to do 72 takes, I understand
Yeah.
why he's shooting digital. But anyway, but yes, let's let's wrap up from there because you got to run out the door in a minute. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, so like it's certainly it's one of those things. I think in the next little bit we'll have to look at some Reiner films as like standalone like
Mhm.
episodes where we look at a movie. I haven't watched North since I was like 11 or
Yeah,
something, so we should
yeah,
do
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah, we definitely should do North
It
because
would
like
be
I
very
remember enjoying
funny.
it. Yeah, so
It would be very funny to do. No, North came out when I was 14, so I wasn't 11. But in any event, um, uh, it's one of those things where like we should do a couple of his movies because again, like in a lot of cases, in spite of how kind of culturally significant they are and how good his films are, they're also not like cult movies that you sit there and watch again and again
yeah,
with your
yeah,
friends in college. Like a lot of these movies I haven't seen in years, and so a lot of the ones that I put on again and again, um, are like things that are not his like biggest
mhm,
movies. So it'd be interesting to kind of do a little dive down some of this stuff.
definitely.
Um, we'll have to try to do that, and they'll give us a better conclusion than me rambling about it right now.
That's fine. Well, anyway, you want to wrap up?
Yeah, yeah. So any final thoughts on your end?
I did realize I haven't said what my favorite one is. I think it's got to be Misery.
Mm,
With a close second of American President. Misery is one that I know that I've watched a lot more than the other one. American President, I've probably seen a ton, just
yeah,
because Carrie, it's one of her favorite films. So I think just something that was just like, oh, we can both agree this is the film.
yeah,
I'm happy to rewatch it again. You know, Douglas is amazing in it, and Annette Bening's
yeah,
just crazy. How like just good. You know, it's like there's nothing special. They're just delivering good dialogue by Sorkin,
yeah,
and done well. So but yeah, that's it. We'll obviously we'll dip into this more.
yeah. All right. Well, thanks to whoever stuck this out while we talked about everything else. And be back here by noon on the fifth day for more Emerald City video. And always remember to rewind your cassettes.